Hey guys, what is up? It is No Help and welcome back to another video. Today, if you guys like the video, make sure to go ahead and smash the like button and maybe even consider subscribing for more. Today I'm going to be talking about some of the longest grinds that I have ever done in this game, and I'm going to be talking about my entire RuneScape career. So this is obviously going to be from like pre-EOC, I guess EOC as well, and then obviously old school RuneScape. So we're just going to be talking about longest grinds because it's very, very interesting, right? You set yourself a goal and it could take you, a year to finish it. It might take you 10 years to finish it. It just kind of depends. So I want to talk about some of the longest grinds that I've ever done in this game, and some of them are obviously still not completed. So obviously way back in the day, I did max my account pre-EOC, or maybe just after the Evolution of Combat came out. I think it was like just pre-EOC though, back in 2012 or whatever it was. Yeah, so I guess obviously that was probably the biggest grind that I've done in my life until that moment, obviously, right? Maxing your account is something that, you never, like when you create the account, you don't really set yourself the goal, especially when you make your first RuneScape account ever, right? It was the very first account that I ever made and I ended up maxing it. It's not like I made that account and that was the first goal I had. I learned the game, fell in love with the game, right? And then eventually maxed the account. So that was something like one of the longest grinds ever. And maxing back in the day was actually like very, very different than it is now, right? It was actually very difficult for me to go ahead and max. There were so many skills I was not a fan of, like agility, for example. Believe it or not, I was not a fan of combat or slayer back in the day, or even farming, which are actually like my favorite skills now. So kind of weird about that. And even something like rune crafting, we did have the rune span, which is kind of a meme, I guess, at this point. But the rune span helped me get my 99 rune crafting back in the day. But the maxing grind was real, man. It took me years and years and lots of double experience weekends and stuff like that to get it out of the way. But I eventually went ahead and obviously maxed. One other grind while I was going for maxing is I always wanted a Santa hat, and that was a lot of money, right? Now it's weird because I never was the type of player that would have a ton of money laying around. I always invested everything I made right back into experience, right? Why not? I was going for max, right? I'd rather get a 99 than say get a Bando's chest plate. So I never saved a ton of money and went and bought myself something nice, quote unquote, right? I would always just spend it on experience. So I always wanted a Santa hat. It was like my favorite holiday item ever. And obviously me saving whatever it was back in the day, 300 or 400 million GP, that was hard to go ahead and do. I did like 200 million thieving in order to go ahead and make myself enough money back then, because back then I wasn't a PVMer. Like I said, I made most of my money through skilling, even flipping and stuff like that. So for me to save that much money was a crazy grind back in the day. Imagine buying a Santa hat for 400 million GP. It's an item that does nothing, right? It just is like a cosmetic thing. So that was a crazy grind that I obviously went ahead and overcame. RuneScape 3 had all these things called daily kind of challenges that you would go ahead and do. So for 3 years straight, I did the sinkholes minigame. I believe it was called sinkholes, right? And then there was some other one, a daily challenge that you had to go ahead and reset. And I did this every single day for 3 years straight, where I would end up just training my Dungeoneering that way. And that actually made me get 200 million experience in Dungeoneering. And I did like Dungeoneering when it first came out. I think I got to level 50 or something like that, but pretty much from level 50 to 200 million experience was done with dailies and stuff like that. Now that seems obviously very overpowered, right? But you got to remember, this was 3 years of doing it daily, and every single day I would log in. It would take me a solid hour to go ahead and do it. And with the sinkholes, you actually had to go ahead and time them as well, so it was a lot to go ahead and do. When RuneScape 3 released Prifddinas, there was the Elf City, and I just fell in love with how AFK the mining was. So I set myself a goal to go ahead and get 200 million mining experience. Now pretty much my friends will remember this better than I do, but I was playing old school at the time because old school just came out, right? So I would have that account on the side AFKing for 3 years straight at the Saren Stones, which is really funny actually. I never ended up getting 200 million. I think I got like 180 million experience in mining for 3 years, right? And it was just one of those weird things that like my friends made fun of me. They said your entire high school you were just at Saren Stones, and yeah, that's kind of true. It was really cool though, because I ended up getting obviously the 120 mining cape, which the 120 capes on that game look phenomenal. So at the end of the day, with my mining, I was also able to get myself 200 million experience in invention, because you could go ahead and augment the pickaxes. Probably a lot of you guys don't even know what the hell I'm talking about, because this is RuneScape 3, but that was one of the longest grinds that I have ever done. Alright, now for the interesting stuff. I probably should have added this at the start of the video, but for my old school RuneScape, the longest grinds that I have ever done. Now, probably the quest cape we'll start with the quest cape, right? Because the quest cape is something, especially being an Ironman account, that just absolutely takes you forever to go ahead and get. Because you need to literally get every single item yourself. You need to get all of the stats yourself. It is one just crazy long journey to go ahead and get yourself the quest cape. It took me forever to go ahead and do that, and obviously in the process, the achievement diary cape and the max cape is probably the longest grinds that I have ever actually done on this game, right? But for like realistic kind of grinds that have been taking me a long time, Zulrah took me 2 months to go ahead and get all the drops from. I had to go ahead and learn Zulrah, die 100 times in order to go ahead and finally get myself a toxic blowpipe to kill it more efficiently. I was so addicted to Zulrah that I would come home after work and just, 1 in the morning and just kill 20 Zulrah and stay up till 3 in the morning just so that I could get that much closer to go ahead and get it. It was probably, at that point, it was probably the most addicted I've ever been to RuneScape, was the Zulrah phase. It was just so much fun, so rewarding. And then also with Hydra, I wanted to get myself the Dragon Hunter Lance forever now on this Ironman account, right? And I'm incredibly dry. I think I'm 2,000 kills dry at Hydra right now without the claw, so RIP to that. But it is what it is. It's something that I'm obviously going to be going back for. And as well, something like the Dragon Warhammer, it's something I really haven't went out of my way to go ahead and get, but I already know that the Dragon Warhammer is going to be like one of the longest grinds that I ever do on this game as well. It's like a 1 in 6 or a 1 in 8,000 chance. I could be totally wrong here, but it's a very long process to go ahead and get this. So yeah, during my RuneScape experience, I've had some crazy long grinds. I'd say probably the biggest one would be maxing this Ironman account right here, right? I mean, technically, I guess in a way, it took me a lot longer to max my main account back in the day, but I was also like literally a kid for half of that, right? Knowing nothing about the game, coming in blind and eventually getting it. And that was all with the help of double experience and stuff like that. But, being a little older now and a little more wise about the game, I was able to pretty much max an Ironman account in, I guess, 6 years, which isn't, like, I know it's been done in, 6 months or something like that, but it's still, like, a really crazy long grind, something that takes 6 years to go ahead and get. And in reality, I probably play more than the average player does, right? Like 6 hours a day, something like that. Not every day, but whenever I do log in, it's about 6 hours. The thing is, though, when you're doing these long types of grinds, you kind of just have to have fun with it. If you go extremely dry at a boss, for example, just think of that as extra money that you're going to be making, right? Or if, it takes you a long time to go ahead and make money to go ahead and get yourself a 99 or whatever, just try and enjoy the journey as much as you possibly can. And that's another way of not burning out as well. Don't look at these things like getting a Dragon Warhammer, for example, as something you have to go ahead and do right now. Think of it as like, you could go ahead and get yourself the Dragon Warhammer, but do it while you do Slayer, so at least you're doing like 2 things at once, and then when you do finally get yourself the Dragon Warhammer, it's almost like it was a surprise in a way. That's kind of how I've always played this game. I don't like to like go for a certain item or something like that, besides for when I was at Zulrah. That was just something that kind of like took over. But the way that I find works best for me to get over these like long kind of grinds and like do it is just try and have fun with it. Don't think of it as a long grind, right? For Hydra, for example, was kind of like a totally different thing. I've just been doing Hydra obviously while doing Slayer, because that's the only way I can. Who knows, maybe if it wasn't that way, I would have grinded it out like a lot. But it's a lot more fun knowing that I can only go ahead and do Hydra on task, and I will eventually get the drop. Do you know what I mean? It's just one of those things. But yeah, those are some of the longest grinds that I've personally ever done on RuneScape. I would love to know some of yours, whether it be from pre-EOC, EOC, or old school RuneScape. I would just love to know some of the longest grinds that you guys have done, even clue scrolls or whatever like that. I'm sure there's people that have went super dry on some of those. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching the entire video today. If you went ahead and watched the whole video, go ahead and comment yellow down in the comments below. Thank you guys, and I will catch you in the next one. See ya later.